Good morning.
Welcome back to Just Justin. So with the recent release of Wonder Woman 1984, we thought it was a fitting time to rank all 9 DCEU movies from Man of Steel to now. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Justin. This is Jesse right here.
Hello.
Supporter of the channel and has appeared in many videos, including paper airplane competition, reacting to all 8 episodes.
I don't think we need to go through.
Off this ranking of all 9 DCU movies is number 9, Justice League. This movie is probably the biggest letdown in the superhero genre in my entire lifetime. Everything they tried just did not work. It just was really bad. It was poorly executed on all fronts. They had a huge drama with the director. Zack Snyder left because of a personal issue, I think. And they brought in Joss Whedon with a half-finished film. And it just did not turn out well. It was a studio-altered, just machine product. And the villain, don't get me started on the villain. The villain, Steppenwolf, just has no characterization. And it did not work at all. I'm still mad the Green Lantern was not there at all, because he's a core part of the team in the comics, and they didn't address his absence whatsoever.
Yeah. Also, I sort of forgot what the movie was about, and it just shows how unmemorable it was. And DC was definitely very safe with the movie. They didn't portray any of the characters very deeply. Rather, it was mostly surface level. And my favorite superhero is the Flash. And they sort of just added him in there as a little sprinkle. He was just this really awkward character with really poor running form.
All right, so now number 8, we have Suicide Squad. I actually didn't wholeheartedly dislike this movie when it first came out. I thought it was kind of a nice change of pace from the regular superhero formula. That being said, the movie, it's just the pacing is just off the whole time. The beginning is just, it's so boring. I mean, it's the flashbacks of all the different villains and how they were captured and brought to the prison, but it just does not work. And there's little cameos from Batman and the Flash, but it just feels kind of like a cash grab more than an exciting villain movie. Jared Leto's Joker performance is so stilted and awkward and not in character at all when you compare it to the great performances of Heath Ledger and Jack Nicholson and most recently Joaquin Phoenix. And it's just, I did not enjoy that at all. Margot Robbie and Will Smith were both good in their roles, but it didn't save it. Jesse, you haven't seen this one, correct?
Nope. But I heard the soundtrack was pretty good.
It was good. There was a 21 Pilots song that was released. It was Heathen.
Yeah.
And they had Bohemian Rhapsody in there. That was all good. Now, number 7, we have Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice. Now, for some reason, Jesse has not seen this movie, despite the fact that we saw Justice League for his birthday 3 years ago. So I'm utterly confused as to how he didn't see this movie, because I kind of had to understand this movie to watch Justice League. But we're going to put that aside for now. So this ranking is not referring to the extended edition, which came out, I believe, last year, which is a much better movie because it kind of fills in the gaps of the regular movie. But the theatrical release is it has lots of ambition, but it doesn't really follow up on those things. So Superman versus Doomsday, it just kind of falls flat, all of it. And the sacrifice at the end just doesn't really make that much sense. I mean, they're like, oh yes, we need someone who can fly to get the spirit because Batman can't do it. They had Wonder Woman right there. She could literally jump and throw the kryptonite spear into Doomsday and it would have worked. But instead, they had Superman do it and then he just died. So really, just didn't work. Zack Snyder, I appreciate his ambition and his efforts and what he was trying to prove with the movie, but it just didn't work for me. Wonder Woman was good. I mean, she was as good as she could be. She had good action sequences. Her character wasn't as developed as I would have liked, but Okay, number 6 is the Wonder Woman 1984, the most recent release of the DCU, as I mentioned before. So Although I love a well-developed villain, this movie just dives a little too deep for its own good into the lives of Maxwell Lord and Cheetah. and it doesn't really leave enough time for the main character, Wonder Woman. I mean, all four of them did great acting jobs. They had good senses of who their characters were, but when you focus too much on the villains and not their relationships to the heroes, it just kind of doesn't work as a conjoined film. The one thing I can't get over in this movie is Steve Trevor. They had all this hype at the end of the first movie, like, oh, did he die? Did he survive? Like, how is he in the second movie? And the way they brought him back was just not good. It does fully embrace its campiness, which I enjoyed, because it was paying direct tribute to the series in the 70s with Linda Carter. So I did like that. And had her as a cameo as well. Okay, number 5.
So number 5 is Aquaman. So this movie was very fun. I wasn't sure how much I liked Aquaman before the movie. I wasn't that much into his character. But the movie definitely did nail like the superhero vibe. The movie did a great job of like explaining the history of like Atlantis as well, and that was like pretty interesting.
Yeah, it was. It was good lore. So I had a lot of fun watching this movie in theaters. It kind of just like was a nice, I guess, change of pace from the hero's journey. Because Aquaman in the comics is kind of the laughing stock of the DC universe, and people always laugh at him like, oh, he can talk to fish, what a great power. But actually, we're able to captivate that pretty well in this movie. Jason Momoa is just having a great time through the entire movie, and I love that because he's actually a pretty good actor, and it was a great role for him. My main issue with the movie is the villain. Ocean Master was the brother of Aquaman. He just is kind of like your generic hero, but bad. Like, they didn't really dive into why he was bad. He just wanted the throne, which is, of course, the basis of every conflict in any movie that regards royalty. All right. Now we go into the top 4. Number 4 is Birds of Prey. So I did not have high hopes for this movie at all when I saw the posters. I thought it was going to be just as like stilted as Suicide Squad and just not work at all. But it actually worked. I mean, Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn is a great acting choice, and her role as, the villain, but also not a villain, she plays it perfectly in this movie. And the supporting cast was just incredible in this movie. You have Black Canary, who's one of my favorite characters from Arrow. Then you have the little girl, Cassandra Cain. Not expecting her to be so good, but she was. Then, of course, Ewan McGregor played the villain, Black Mask. Ewan McGregor is good in every single movie that he's ever been in. So, yeah, it was just good. The supporting cast was a lot of characters that we've seen before in the show Arrow. So I was like, oh, are they going to be as good as the actors in Arrow? But they pay them justice. Okay, number 3, we have Shazam. This was actually quite a pleasant surprise for me. After Justice League, I kind of just had like no hope for the DCEU, and I was just kind of like, okay, it's dead, nothing's gonna happen. But they actually kind of were able to recover for this movie because it wasn't related to the main plot of the franchise before, but he's a compelling character. They kind of had the boys say Shazam and turn into the man. Like, the movie really embraces the ridiculousness of that plot point. Just like to have this little kid just like become a grown man with powers. I mean, it's funny, but they understand that. The movie understands that, so I like that a lot. The humor, I would say, was really good in this movie. The DCEU knows how to do humor in the standalone films, not so much in the team-up films like Justice League. That was just atrocious humor. But in Shazam, it was good with him and the friend when they were figuring out the powers.
Oh, is it my turn? Okay. Yeah, I definitely thought that the movie had like a different tone than the other superhero movies. As you were saying, like it sort of like poked fun at like the ridiculousness of it. And like it was definitely like a little bit of like cheesy and perhaps a bit childish. I think that was sort of to show like the disconnect between like being a child and suddenly being like a fully grown adult. And yeah, I think it was a pretty like cohesive film in general.
And Jesse and I actually saw this movie together in the theaters, and on the way home, I was so into the superhero vibe that we actually made a short film in which I played a original superhero called The Machine. And I might release some of that footage at some point. We'll see. It's a very sensitive subject for me.
It wasn't a short film. It was just you harassing a street sign and jumping on me.
Yeah, that was a fun time. All right, so number 2, Man of Steel. When I first saw this movie, I absolutely hated it. I just thought the dark tone was incredibly unnecessary and very kind of contrary to Superman, who's supposed to be this bright and uplifting hero. And in some ways, I kind of do still feel that way. But if you take the movie and what it's trying to convey about superheroes, it kind of is a revolutionary movie. Henry Cavill plays the dark, kind of brooding version of Superman really, really well. And by the end of the movie, my idea of the like iconic character of Superman was completely changed. His backstory is really believable in this movie, whereas in the Christopher Reeve version, it's just kind of like these people in 80s costumes, just like in a circle, and special effects were kind of iffy back in 1978 or whatever it came out. So this does a really good job of kind of modernizing the story of Superman. The villain, Zod, Michael Shannon was good, but his motives just were a little bit unclear to me. So, of course, coming in at number one, I doubt there's anyone out there in the world who would say any other answer besides this. So we have number one, Wonder Woman. This movie was absolutely everything I hoped it would be. Her character in the previous movie was kind of just like there. She didn't have much development. So I was really glad to see that they actually stepped forward and kind of developed everything in this movie. She has a similar arc, actually, to kind of Captain America in the MCU. And I like that about it. It was kind of a mix between, actually, Amy Adams' character in Enchanted, kind of like the fish out of water thing. I like that a lot. And her dynamic with Steve Trevor was great. The villain of Ares is original. I'll give him that. The way that they were able to like kind of make you empathize with him during his disguise was good. But the end part where he like turns into the fully like armor-clad warrior was a little bit cheesy and kind of didn't need to be there. I actually read recently that the director didn't want that scene to be in there, but I did like the villain overall. So the ensemble cast, really great. They don't have screen time compared to Diana, but they still have very strong casting characters, which builds the ragtag team of soldiers together in the film.
Yeah, and I think that the movie did a great job of like showing her roots, like where she came from, and it sort of like ties into like how she, like as you said before, sort of like her motives. Also like the humor, there was like little elements of humor in there. It definitely like lightened up the tone of the movie, and I think it was definitely a very well-rounded film. I couldn't really think of anything like negative about the film, and yeah.
So I'm gonna pass it off to Arshmeet for why you should like and subscribe.
Like, comment, subscribe, and turn on that notifications bell down below. Thanks so much for watching. That's it. Peace.